The topic of presentation is as a consumer, does demand for ethical products have power on the decisions made in supply chain? Presentation is prepared by Wanting Wang, Wenqian Zhang in Xiangtan, where for this presentation for Wang has researched about supply chain. Tan explains the theory of the power matrix. Zhang focuses on the ethical products. For the rest of sections of the presentation, we have all provided examples and made the conclusion in relation to the topic areas and to answer two questions in the end. For the presentation, firstly, we will introduce about supply chain and the sustainable supply chain management. Secondly, we focus on supplier power and consumer power. Then we will propose what is ethical products. Combined with theories mentioned before, we will give some examples and our personal experience to show that as a consumer, the demand for ethical products have power on the decision made in supply chain. So what is supply chain? A supply chain is a system of organizations, people, activities, information, and resources involved in moving a product or service from supplier to customer. Supply chain activities transform raw materials and components into a finished product that is delivered to the end customer. Then we should know what is supply chain management. Supply chain management is the management of network of interconnected business involved in the ultimate provision of goods and service required by the end customer. Supply chain management supports all movement and the storage of raw materials, work in process inventory, and finish the goods from point of origin to point of consumption. Supply chains, moreover, can be frighteningly fragile, as they have been extended in response to globalization. They have also become increasingly vulnerable to natural disaster, civil conflict, and many other common risks. Many are as keen to demonstrate their commitment to community recycling projects or human and labor rights, as they are to show that they are responding to the challenge of climate change. And small wonder, these days it would be hard-pressed to find a major global company that isn't pursuing sustainability initiatives. So what is sustainable supply chain management? It is clear that supply chains, for most organizations, have a far greater impact on the environment than any other part of their operations. There are many other reasons why organizations should care about sustainability in their supply chains. The first one, better bottom line. Research and experience have proven that sustainability significantly improves financial results. Consumers recognize the importance of green practice and sustainability, which more and more drives increased sale and share valuation. Third one, sustainability is equated with corporate social responsibility and stewardship. With being a good global citizen, the positive public relations exposure from identifying and implementing sustainable supply chain practices can yield many benefits for companies. Next one is the elimination of waste in supply chain is a hallmark of sustainability. Suppliers and corporate customers are increasingly requiring sustainable practices of their vendors.
More and more companies are turning to creating more ethical environments as well as products and services as more demands of consumers increase. The triple bottom line was first created in 1994 by John. He highlighted that companies should be preparing three different bottom lines. The triple bottom line consists of three parts: profits, people, and planet. It aims to measure the financial, social, and environmental performance of the company over a period of time. Does consumers' demand for ethical products have power or not? We should figure relationship between supplier power and consumer power first. Power imbalance is a concept where one party has the ability to exercise power over another will depend on its dependence, since there is no organization is self-sufficient, and therefore firms will seek to enter relationships so that they are able to access resources they need in order to fulfill their operational objective. There are 4 types of power relationship to classify. Buyer dominance refers to buyer has more power than the supplier. The reason why buyer has more power than the supplier is because the criticality of the resource is relatively low due to low operational and commercial importance. For example, there are choices available for the buyer to choose preferred supplier. According to the Guardian News and Media survey of 1,000 readers and online users, segments the respondent into 4 types. 41% of commuters will do everything they can to live ethically. 23% of followers felt a growing pressure to change the way they live. 23% of them are confused and felt that the responsibility lies mainly with the governments and businesses. 13% of questioners only undertake ethical actions that benefit them. This shows that there are more buyers and consumers demanding unethical products. Therefore, buyer is dominant. According to another report of ethical consumer markets, which show that despite continuing economic hardship, people are making those ethical choices and at a growing rate. The report's findings are a very positive sign for ethical consumption and for the growing movements of people who are making conscious choices with their money and who, in doing so, are actively addressing the social and environmental challenge facing us today rather than relying on others to come up with the solution. An increasing number of people make their consumption decisions on the basis of ethical value, such as environmental friendly products and production method, labor standards, and human rights. Ethical products include ethical food and drinks, like organic food, green home products, ethical personal products, like ethical clothing. Ethical consumerism is a growing phenomenon that underpins ethical trade activities. There are many motivations for ethical business practice, but the apparent demand for ethical consumer is the most important one. Many businesses adopt ethical practice because this is what they believe the consumer wants. The fair trade is about better price for smallholder farmers and workers in developing countries. Fair trade addresses the injustices of conventional trade, which too often leave the poorest, weakest producer earning less than it costs them to grow their crop. Oxfam, who promotes the development of fair trade, is an international confederation to find solutions to poverty and what it considers injustice around the world. In their 2002 report, Poverty in Your Coffee Cup, they found that the price of coffee bean has fallen by almost 50% in the past 3 years. With farmers getting a price that is below the cost of production, the company's booming business is being paid by some of the poorest people in the world. The organization hopes consumers boycott the major players in the coffee industry do not buy the products without fair trade tag. Since then, the active participation of the consumer caused great pressure to the companies. In the end, they have to sell fair trade label products.
One more example, Nike has been accused of using spite shops since the early 1970s. Common form of practice to their insufficient factory conditions by consumers include protest, hunger strikes, and boycotts. Several universities, unified by the Worker Rights Consortium, organized a national hunger strike in protest of their school using Nike products for athletics. Then Nike began to working conditions in factories that produce their products. During the 1990s, Nike installed a code of conduct for their factory. They spent about $10 million a year to follow the code, adhering the regulations for fire safety, air quality, minimum wage, and overtime limits. In 1998, Nike introduced a program to replace its petroleum-based solvent with less dangerous water-based solvents. Customers' power to extend we had any depended on brands forcing their supply chains to do better. Customers are increasingly requiring sustainable practice of their vendors. So we can see as consumers, the demand for ethical products have power to effective supply chain practice. Primark is a clear example of this profit plunge after dealing with child labor issues and other irresponsible business behaviors. Poor working conditions in Indian factories supplying Primark. Presence of child labor, which by far is considered the worst of unethical practice. A major polemic among the customers, which later led to mass boycott and protest organized mostly by War and Want. Many consumers, upon hearing the firm's bad reputation for disregarding business ethics, opted for boycott or turning rival retailers. Given such conditions, Primark has implemented an ethical trade director who will conduct the audit on new and current suppliers and train them to maintain a corporate social responsibility. These ethical trade directors will be in charge of teaching suppliers, factories, and Primark's own buyer the ethical issues, and create awareness to avoid any more problem. Companies don't always understand the impact of their actions, and if consumers are unaware of how products get to market, there won't be a price to pay for cutting corners. The situation is changing. However, consumers today are becoming better educated about overseas working conditions, and the unfair treatment of workers can seriously harm sales and brand identity. The public growing awareness of environmental issues also put pressure on companies to build more sustainable supply chains.
In my hometown, there is a medicine factory. In its production process, produced a lot of pollution that's affecting our life. According to the relevant laws and regulations, my neighbors and I complained to the Environmental Protection Department. At the same time, we informed to media through our common protest and supervision. Now the factory upgrade the equipment, reduce pollution emissions. As for consumers, like us are able to purchase products that have trademark on it to show support on suppliers who produce ethical products. Also, we can share our experiences on Facebook about companies that produce unethical products. In the coming years, social media will become a powerful tool that consumers will aggressively use, influence business attitudes, and force companies into greater social responsibility. Using Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, and other social media tools that now empower them to make or break a brand. Actually, as consumer, every single one only has little power, but we can use some social media and relevant law and regulation to monitor the company's ethical producing practice. Besides that, young consumers are now well educated and understand of the importance of purchasing the ethical products. Due to the increased size of industries, consumers now have more power and broader choices on choosing ethical products to purchase. It will increase pressure suppliers to produce ethical products in order to maintain its reputation. So we can see that As a consumer, the demand of ethical products have power on decisions made in supply chain.
For question 1, for the knowledge of products, combined with our personal experience as a consumer, we don't know a lot of information, just know what is produced, what about the raw materials may be, what does it do, and the product price, quality, and its brand reputation. We gain a part knowledge from our own way to get directly processable. It depends on the brand's own propaganda and media publication and information from others.
The answer for question 2 is yes, it does. Since both buyer and consumer have common goal on demanding ethical product, and sometimes consumer receive direct sales from the supplier. Therefore, this shows that suppliers do want to enter a relationship with us, the consumers. And when there is a relationship, there will be power imbalance between the supplier and consumer, such as consumer dominance, supplier dominance, independent, interdependent. So we can relate our experience into Oxford Mark, the power matrix.